Welcome, welcome once again to Words Have Power with Teresa Hawley-Howard. I'm so excited for our October summit. These women have been phenomenal, and this one is no different. So let's just get started right away and jump right in. Welcome to the show, and tell us about yourself.
I'm Kimberly Schehrer, and the sound was breaking up, so I didn't hear the question.
Tell us all about
Tell
yourself.
about myself.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my name is Kimberly Schehrer. I'm a teen breakthrough expert. So I work with middle school through college age students, helping them to improve their self-esteem, their grades, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, whatever it takes to help them navigate through the bumps in the road as they journey on through life and in school.
Okay, tell us how you got started. I know when I was in school, all we had was a guidance counselor. So I really didn't have anybody to help me steer through those, probably why I had some rough years there. But tell us how you got started in this field.
Wow. Well, my original start in the field was through my internship and working through schools as a counselor, primarily middle school through high school. And then my company, Academy for Independence, opened up because I was working more one-to-one with students with learning disabilities and also, ADHD and other things, and helping them to really helping them to process information in ways that really work for them. So strengthening kind of their weaker areas in addition to developing new neural pathways for them to learn easier and more effectively. And then it just kind of branched out into really working just with teens in general that are struggling in school. So
I think that's a much needed field now because it's a lot rougher sea out there, a lot rougher path than it was when we were young. There were no cell phones. There was no, well, there was barely internet, but it was new. The computer was like hooked up to the wall. I mean, it said dialing, if you don't know that sound, you're too
right.
young. And so, and so those people were not, the people were not at you or with you 24/7. You could have a buffer zone. You could have a safe zone. And now I watch my grandkids and there is no downtime. There is no, disconnect time. Bullying and things like that are 24/7 on their phones, on their Snapchat, on their Instagram, on their Facebooks, in their inboxes. And so I think that it's very important that we reach them at that young age. I know when I started my programs, I thought I wanted to talk to girls who were like junior to senior in high school, before they went into college. And then when I first went to speak to them, I figured out I needed to be in 5th and 6th grade because by junior to senior in high school, self-esteem was pretty much already set. Problems were already in place. And I needed to reach them kind of, here we call it intermediate school, before they even got to middle school, which is 7th and 8th grade in Texas. We needed to reach them before social media, before the world had taught them what they were supposed to be, what was pretty, what these definitions of good were, or great or perfect. And so it's a lot younger age now that I think it was when we were younger, because I can remember when I was in high school, my biggest fear was whether or not I was going to pass a grade because my parents were going to flip if I got a C. And now my granddaughter is in the 8th grade and she worries nonstop about how her hair looks, how she looks here, what she's doing there. Has she been on her social media? Did she post something on her Snapchat? Did somebody say something about her? And I couldn't imagine that pressure at that young of an age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There is definitely, I feel like, a lot more pressure. And I know for me, I struggled in like math, temporarily struggled a little bit with reading. And didn't have a tutor, and it was tough. Had an older brother, compared myself to him. Of course, he was the honor roll student, and then got into high school. This is my own story, but then got into high school, was definitely identified with the rebel. Grades weren't so great. Wasn't sure I'd get into college, but I did. And it was at that point when I, with a vision and my purpose, I made different choices and just really turned my situation around and went on to graduate school and so forth. So I truly believe that teens can turn their situation around. And I love that you're absolutely right, Teresa, that the younger that we can intervene and offer them support, the better, because to me that's more prevention. Because by the time, first of all, school demands increase every time, middle school, then they increase again in high school, then they're increased again in college.
Yep.
And any of us are establishing habits and patterns. So if they're really not going to serve us, which they might at 5th grade, but they're not at 8th grade, it's better, to let's teach some better skills and strategies that will work for their lifetime. The sooner, the better, before those bad habits get established. So I absolutely agree with you. And the pressures, you're absolutely right. There's, we, even as adults, we're feeling that, bombarded by so much information and, so many, I don't know if reasons is the right word, but so many avenues to take our attention away from really being present and, being connected within ourselves. And that's super important. So, yeah.
I think that's so true. I know my mom tells a story now and she laughs about it, but I can remember when we were in high school, my sister did not laugh because I made straight A's and I was an honor student and we were in a small town. So my sister was I was in a senior and she was a freshman. And so she was coming back into high school right behind me, but she had the same teachers because, it was a small school. It's not like more than one teacher taught biology. There was one teacher. And so she was having the same teachers that I did. And they would say, oh, your sister did this. We're expecting such great things of you. And I remember my sister came home. And it was funny because I was very introvert. I wasn't the social person. My sister was the social butterfly. She had 1 million friends in high school. I probably had 3. And so because I worked a full-time job and I went to school and I just didn't have time for those things. And my sister was the social butterfly. By then, my mom was remarried to my stepdad, and so my sister had better options than I did. She could be the social butterfly. But she came home one day, and she threw her books on the ground. And I had already finished high school. I think she was a sophomore. And she told my mom, you and these people at school just need to accept that I'm a C student. I have accepted myself, and now it's time for you to accept it. And my mom was just like, what? No, because my sister didn't have good study habits, whereas I studied nonstop. My sister said, oh, we were supposed to read chapter 7. I saw that it has a title, and that would be the end of her reading. She would know the title of the chapter. But she just didn't have those study skills. And I remember as she went on to college, because she went on to community college, she was a social butterfly at school too. So she showed up to the pep rallies and she showed up to all of the school activities and the bonfires and the after school things and the before school rallies, but she didn't show up to class very often. But she liked the idea of being a college student because she had all these social connections. And so I think, the quicker we get to them, because as my granddaughter now that is in California, she will call me with her assignments, and then I'll be like, well, do you have them written down? Because she's in the 8th grade now, so they get their assignments at the first of the 6 weeks, and they don't, the teacher just, they're due at the end of the 6 weeks. So, you can work on them however you want to. And so she'll be like 3 days before the end of the 6 weeks, usually the Thursday before the end of the 6 weeks. Yeah. And she'll be like, do you know anything about this? Have you read this book? Are there any quotes you remember about that? And so I think if we reach them early enough, that they'll have better study habits, they'll have a better success plan. And not only will it serve them better in school, but it'll serve them better in life.
Right. Right. Absolutely. A lot of these skills are life skills, advocating for yourself, being accountable, checking the grades. And what you're describing is very common. And I will say for a lot of our youth, it's a difficult concept to think of, really being independent in prioritizing and planning out. So, I think of like a large project, like a research paper. And so there's multiple steps. And while the teacher will hand out oftentimes guidelines like check out a few books, read them, etc. Next 2 weeks, do this. It's still very difficult for them to even get that kind of concept. And then you tack on just, procrastination and other things that we're human, that we're all susceptible to. And yeah, you get.
Are you there?